Hello, my name is Caleb Smith with the Rocket Miner newspaper, here with an update for March 8th, 2021, where I will be talking about the governor's decision to shortly pull back on restrictions regarding the coronavirus, particularly masking, reactions in Sweetwater County from local health and business leaders to that change, new guidelines from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, particularly involving those who have been vaccinated. What's safe? What do they encourage? What do they discourage? And the beginning of softball practice, not only in Rock Springs, but across the state of Wyoming. To begin, Governor Mark Gordon announced that effective March 16th, that he will be ending the state mask requirement and allowing bars, restaurants, theaters, gyms to resume normal operations. That's not to say that the danger's past. The governor still encourages people to wear face coverings in indoor public places and to follow whatever best practices businesses have in place. Certainly in Wyoming, there were some private businesses that even before some of the health orders that put the mask order in place, had people requiring people to wear masks to patronize the business. If that's the case now, people are still encouraged to follow that. The governor noted that the pending lifting of these guidelines follows an improvement in the number of cases and the ongoing rollout of the COVID-19 vaccination in the state of Wyoming. He noted that nearly 100,000 first doses of the vaccine have been administered in Wyoming, and that covers about 19% of the state's residents having at least one dose, so almost 1 in 5. A press release from the governor's office also noted that most counties are already in the 1C phase of the vaccination rollout, and particularly in Sweetwater County, that applies to essential employees who just hadn't had the chance to get the vaccination in earlier phases. One thing to note is that the facial covering requirement will still be in place in K through 12 schools, public schools. That's noted that it's just when distancing isn't required. In many classrooms, you just can't get 30 or so or whatever dozen students that far apart. And in those cases, both student and staff are required to have a mask of some kind. The goal is that, such as what we've seen in Sweetwater County, to be able to allow them to have in-person instruction and include activities. We don't want to see any more, certainly something that's been discussed in my circle of friends, is that we don't want to see people go to spring break and then not come back to classes, or see some of the state playoffs or big competitions canceled at the end of the year like we saw in 2020. The announcement from the governor's office came just prior to the bi-monthly meeting hosted by Sweetwater County health and business leaders. And while it's always great to see numbers improving, there was some hesitation expressed by our health leaders, particularly the fact that Sweetwater County remains one of the more severe areas. It was noted that Sweetwater County is the only county in the state that's listed in the red in both number of cases and percent positivity rates. As of Monday, Dr. Gene Station, our Sweetwater County public health officer, noted that tests have an 11.7 positivity percent. Statewide, that average is closer to about it's closer to 2.6%. It's also noted that we still have patients hospitalized at Memorial Hospital, Sweetwater County. Another thing to note is that we're also seeing progress and excitement regarding our own efforts with vaccination. It's stressed that if anyone is interested in getting the coronavirus vaccine, they should just contact public health to see if they qualify. That number is 307-922-5390. That's 307-922-5390. It's stressed that many people may qualify that they don't realize they do. And we just want people to get as vaccinated as much as possible. One other thing to note, just when it comes to the number of cases Sweetwater County compared to the state, was that it was also noted that Sweetwater County has 17% of the known cases in the state right now, even though it only has 7% of the population. Today, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention updated its guidelines regarding people who've been fully vaccinated. And their advice is that people who've been fully vaccinated, by that it might be 2 doses of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine and having a couple number of days passed. Or maybe just 1 dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccination, in which they're just a couple days pass for them to be considered fully vaccinated. Your immune system fully activated on its guard. They say that fully vaccinated people can gather together indoors without masks and without distancing. The recommendation remains that if you're still out in public, follow the same guidelines. It's still encouraged for you to wear a mask and do social distancing and avoid large gatherings when possible. But the idea is that if in a close circle of family, everybody's been fully vaccinated, the recommendation now is that people could be able to gather together for maybe have the grandkids see the grandparents, that type of small limited thing. It's just a sign that we're slowly getting back to some of the things that we took for granted, and we're very thankful to be seeing now. And talk about things that are worth getting excited about and looking forward to. Rock Springs High School softball began its practice today, and this is its first year where softball is considered a high school sanctioned sport. Back in 2019, multiple school districts announced that they'd be willing to sponsor the sport, Rock Springs and Green River included. And even though there's some, and at the time, and you can go back into the Rocket Minor archives to see, we had a lot of local players who talked about the fact that they were hopeful that one day their teammates might be able to, because they might have aged out, or people who had grown up in the system, and some were coaches, some were parents now, that they hadn't had that opportunity, but they were excited about what future generations would. And today the Tigers took the field at the Wataha ball fields, doing a lot of your basic conditioning. There's always always extra running for those who don't make it to practice on time. As a person who was a high school athlete who could have been a little bit more rigorous with the summer training, there's nothing like putting some muscles to the test that you may not have properly worked out over the summer. But there's certainly a lot of excitement, and there's a lot to be squeezed in a short amount of time. The Tigers' first game is expected to be Friday, March 19th in Cheyenne. The team's yet to be determined. It's going to be one of the Cheyenne schools, but we're hopeful to be bringing you the results of that too. And the first home game is scheduled for Friday, March 26th against Natrona County. So be watching to see what the teams, local teams do. And I'd encourage you to try out for the games. I mean, how often can you see that I was part of the premier season? I was there from this special milestone. We're expecting a lot from the Tigers and Wolves this year, both in softball and other activities. And as we learn about those and find fun stories, we're looking forward to sharing them with you in the pages of the Rocket Miner. My name is Caleb Smith with said publication. Wishing you a good day and a safe tomorrow. Bye.